Welcome to the Millionaires mini-series with your hosts Stephanie Keith and Stacey Failing, here to set you up with the most luxurious version of yourself. This podcast is filled with wealthy women vibes and a sneak peek into the millionaire's lifestyle. Whether your inner millionaire's dreams of taking private jets to deserted islands or you prefer the lighter side of luxury, we have an opportunity for you that is priceless.
Come join us as we share with you all of our juicy money secrets, mindset hacks, and so much more. Money may not buy happiness, but it can provide you with an abundant life beyond your wildest dreams. So turn up the volume, adjust your crown, and get ready to embrace your inner millionaire-ess.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Millionaires Mindset Podcast. Today we have one of our Millionaires alumni on the call, Magan Worth. Magan, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, it's so good to see your face. We have missed you, even though we still talk all the time. It's nice to see you on Zoom. So you have been really busy since the mastermind ended. I know while we were going through it, there was a lot of those like aha moments. And one of your moments was that, you know what, I'm going to write a book. And you just kind of like decided. It was like, it seemed like you were so certain. So like it just shot through you or what happened? Explain that process.
So before I was in the Millionaire's Mindset masterclass, I've always kind of been that way. I'm just like, I just make up my mind and I just do it. That's just how I've lived my life. That's how I've gotten through all my careers. Like I said, I just wake up one day and I'm like, I'm going to do this. But writing the book was different because doing something, making that a career choice, you know, that's something that's very personal. Like I can because I'm not affecting anybody else's life. It's just my own life. So it's fine. But writing a book was something that I've always wanted to do, just never had, I don't know, just the confidence to do it because now I'm sharing my life. And that's what I feel like I needed out of that mastermind is the confidence just to kind of put myself out there and just say, screw it. You know what? This is my story. This is my life. This is my perspective on this topic. For example, my book is kind of written a lot about my trauma and I needed to just do it. And that's one of the things is like I said, I live by is you just do it. So
It was almost as if you were waiting for that permission slip to say it's okay to express everything that you had gone through. And now I remember in the mastermind, you were saying, I want other women, especially other women who were in the armed forces and in the military or in the police force to be able to have something to resonate with and knowing that they're not alone and going through that. So I saw that and it was just pure raw emotion from you. And you're like, I need to do this. I need to do this for me, but I also need to do this for the other women who I know are going through very similar.
absolutely. Especially coming from, so you guys know that, 8 years Marine Corps, 10 years law enforcement in Southern California. Any other woman, and I'm sure, I don't want to speak for every woman, but a majority of women, especially my close friends and everything, we don't really have a voice. We are in a men's club, for example. And, it's like, we kind of just, we're there to do a job and then we go home. But if we experience things or if something happens to us, most of the time we just keep our mouth shut. And I wish, looking back, I wish I would have said something. If something bothered me or if somebody said something that was, sexual harassment based or something like that, I wish I would have said something, but we don't really have that voice. I want any woman who reads my book to know that they have a voice. They have a say.
No, I think that's going to really be helpful because like even outside of the police force or military, you see it in like the corporate world too. Like when I worked for a very big organization, there were all men on my team in sales. And there were so many things that happen where now is like a confident, older woman. I feel like, why did I take that crap?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I speak up? So I think that your book is going to give women confidence and like let them know like, no, this isn't normal. We shouldn't normalize it and you should stand up for yourself. So
Exactly.
let's just let everyone know a little bit of your story, because it is pretty remarkable. Like, you were in the military, then you were in the police force, and then you completely made a change and like moved to another state and went in a completely different direction. So maybe just give an overview for everyone on that.
Absolutely. Yes. I definitely hit the reset button is what I called it. So I needed a life reset. I needed a do-over. And that's like, again, the best thing about the book that I'm writing is it's never too late to just hit the freaking reset button. Just do it. If your career, your lifestyle no longer aligns with who you are as a person, it's okay in your mid-30s to just hit the reset button. But yeah, so kind of how I got into all of this is I grew up pretty traumatic childhood. I was molested as a child, and I was just kind of put up, again, not saying anything, not using my voice, because when I did, I was always shut down or turned away or made to feel like it was my fault. That's just what I experienced growing up. And so I remember I was absolutely miserable. I was putting myself through community college, and I was working for a police department in my hometown of Fremont. And just as a community services officer, while I was going to school during the day and I was working at night, I was just absolutely freaking miserable. I knew the direction I wanted to go. I always known I wanted to be in law enforcement ever since I was a baby. Like, my mom used to say, like, about 4 or 5, I used to tell people I was going to be a police officer over and over again. And so I knew the direction I wanted to go. And that's where, as soon as I graduated high school, 10 days later, I was already working for the Fremont Police Department as a community services officer. But again, like the weight of having to go to school all day, work all night, getting maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep was miserable. I was so depressed to the point where I'm like, it's time to hit the reset button. So I remember, to this day, I remember waking up in my bed and said, I'm going to join the military. And I was like, but I'm not just going to join the military, because, here growing up, I don't know about you guys, but here growing up, like, everybody's like, oh, the Marine Corps is like the hardest and the boot camp is the most challenging and this and that. And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go big. I'm going to join the Marine Corps. so, I mean, in my little head, now I know all branches they have their challenges. I'm not that type. I'm not that way anymore. Because now I know, like, every branch, depending on even the Coast Guard, they all have our challenges. So I went and talked to a recruiter. And the first recruiter was absolutely terrible, didn't take me seriously, asked me out several times on dates, would put his wedding ring in his pocket, would show up at my house. And to the point where I was like, this guy's nasty. I was like, I got to get away. So I ended up driving from Fremont to Sacramento, which is a good about an hour and a half drive, just to get away from his area, because he serviced that entire area. And I was like, I don't need this right now. Like, this is the last thing I freaking need to deal with. So I drove an hour and a half away to Sacramento and I met this incredible gunnery sergeant who helped me, got me through the PT test, the physical fitness test, and the ASVAB and all that fun stuff. So we got me a date, and 2 months later, I was shipped out to boot camp and started my journey. And that's where I really learned that I can do anything that I put my mind to, because boot camp is hard. And there's times where I wanted to sit there and cry, because you are left to figure it out on your own at boot camp. And part of one of the chapters in my book, I write about, that pivotal moment in your life where you give up. Like, because there was a point in boot camp I gave up. And I was like, it is so stupid. So long story short, we have what's called a confidence course in boot camp. It's this intense obstacle course. I was great at everything. Turns out I was a natural runner. It was perfect, but there was the freaking rope. You have to be able to climb this rope, and nobody's teaching you. And every day, week by week, would go by, and I would stop at this rope, and drill instructors are screaming at me to get the hell up the rope. Everybody's yelling at me, and I'm like trying to hold in back my tears. And I'm like, I can't get up this freaking rope. I think I want to say 6 weeks goes by. Finally, something clicks, and all of a sudden, I'm climbing a rope. And I don't know how, I don't know what changed. I don't know what I'm doing differently. All I know is I'm getting up the rope. And I use that moment in every hard decision. I'm trying not to get emotional, but every hard decision I come to, I remember that fucking rope. Every time I put myself in a really complicated situation, a scary situation, my what ifs are taking over. I think about that freaking rope and how, it didn't happen right away. It took time, But one day it just happened. And I don't know, again, it's one of those things, like, I don't know how it happened. I don't know what I did differently, but all of a sudden I got off the rope. And since then I've been able to climb a rope. That has been a more like the most, I don't know, just, it's a good reminder. Eventually we're all gonna get up that damn rope. So long story short, I joined the Marine Corps, and it's good. I did have a good experience. A lot of things around me happened. Unfortunately, you know, suicide is a big thing in the military, and seeing my friends do things to themselves and take their own lives and stuff like that. It was just, and then of course, like the sexual harassment that goes on that nobody talks about, because most of the time when I did report sexual harassment, if somebody did physically touch me or was coming to my barracks room at 2:00 in the morning just to say hi, you know, it all just got swept under the rug. And again, I was like, something needs to change. This doesn't fit me. This doesn't align with the life. This doesn't align with who I am as a person. It's time to hit that reset button. So a year before I got out of the Marine Corps, I applied for a couple of police departments in Southern California. I ended up getting 2 conditional job offers, one with what's called Oceanside Police and one for San Diego. And I went San Diego route. And 5 days after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was in the police academy. Time for a whole nother chapter. So it was like a whole nother, you know, like life reset, which I'm big on. And again, just it reminded me, being in law enforcement, a whole nother world. Because now you're going from the Marine Corps is a little bit like, if you're not deployed, it is a little bit of a slower pace. You're just training all day, all night, just training. But now in law enforcement, you hit the ground running every single morning. There's no time to like, half the time I didn't have time to grab coffee. It's just you get your uniform on, you go to lineup, we have our little meetup, get into your cars, and you just go. You just start answering the radio calls. And again, there was some things, you know, that I experienced in law enforcement, just trauma-based and stuff like that, dealing with all those radio calls that are also in my book. And but there did come a time where I did get married. I was in a very abusive relationship. And I married an alcoholic. And I thought, you know, everybody kept telling me like, you know, he'll change, he'll get help, this and that, and nothing ever came out of it. I ended up having to leave, and I became a single mom. So being a single mom, full-time police officer, having to rely heavily on my nanny weighed on me. The mom guilt killed me. And to the point where I put up cameras all throughout my house. So while I was in my patrol car, while I was doing these radio calls, my phone was right there next to my laptop in my patrol car, just watching the baby play. And I would just cry in between radio calls. And I was like, this is not the life for me. I barely get to see my daughter. I don't get to take her to preschool. I need a new career. And I didn't know what it was. I would think about it. I'm like, I don't know what else I would do. What else am I good at? Because when you're super duper depressed, like how I was, you don't think that there's anything else. You don't think you're going to be good at anything else. And because you've been doing this job for 10 years, what else? The law enforcement is so different than any other career. I'm like, I don't know how to do anything else. So time goes by, the riots happened, and I didn't see my daughter for 6 weeks. And even my nanny was crying. She's like, I'm praying for you. Hopefully you come home tonight. And there's a couple times where she would break down, and she's like, I don't even know if you're going to come home. And I would have to leave extra phone numbers for her to call just in case something was to happen to me. And I was like, I can't live my life like this anymore. And I thought about it. Real estate never really crossed my mind, but one day it just clicked. I said, these women and men who work in real estate get to work from home. It's a flexible schedule. Yeah, it's going to be another challenge. A lot of people fail out of real estate in their first year, but it can't be that hard. And that's what I kept telling myself. I was like, I don't understand why are people so afraid to get into something more entrepreneurship where you have to obtain your clients and stuff like that. But I was like, it can't be that hard, because there's a lot of people that I saw on TikTok and Instagram doing it, and they're being successful at it. So again, a year after the riots happened, I sold my house, put my house on the market, sold it, quit my job, and moved to Texas. And I have been in Texas for a year. And again, thriving in real estate. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of moments where I'm like, how am I going to make this work? I'm going to be a single mom. Am I being reckless? Like leaving a career. I felt like it was super reckless, but sometimes, I mean, you need that big change in order to just, I don't know how to say it. Like I needed that big change. The fear of staying stuck in a career like law enforcement for the rest of my life was scarier than failing in law enforcement or failing in real estate. My biggest fear was being in law enforcement for 20 years. So.
Yeah. And staying stuck like in a career, but also in an area. So I'm kind of curious, like why you chose to leave states, but like me personally, I did the same exact thing. And I felt like if I stayed in the same location, nothing would ever change. And so it's like, sometimes I do think you need a complete,
Yes.
change in everything, your whole environment, the people you're around day in and day out.
Absolutely. So Texas was specific to me. I don't know why. So when I graduated boot camp, my mom came to my graduation. We ended up flying back to California together. And one of our layovers was in Houston. And we had like a 4.5 hour layover. And I was starving. Again, when you're in boot camp, they just starve the hell out of you. It's chicken, rice, and vegetables for dinner, breakfast, lunch, everything. All I wanted was Chili's. So we get to Houston and I'm starving. And my mom's like, what do you want to eat? Do you want to leave the airport? We have time. And I was like, yeah, I want to go to Chili's. I want a chocolate molten lava cake right now. And that's all I want. I just wanted sugar. I wanted sugar so bad. I was craving it. We hadn't had sugar in 3 months. So we leave the airport. We take a cab. The closest Chili's it was right up the road. I think it was only like 15 minutes away. And there's a line out the door. And I was like, I don't care. We're getting in this line. And I'm still in my what's called the service uniform, because as soon as you graduate boot camp, they just kick you off base and send you on your little way to your next duty station. So I was still in my service uniform, just tired, worn out. I looked completely defeated and I was sore from head to toe. I didn't care. I was going to stand that line. And it was an hour-long wait, but we get there and I get to the back of the line and everybody is pushing me forward. Like, no, please go. And I'm like, no, you guys, like, I'm fine. Like, I can wait in line with everybody else. And they're like, no, thank you, please. Like they were letting me cut the line. And I was like, why are people being so nice to me? It was one of those things. And I was just like, you know what? Okay, thank you. And I was like really appreciative. We get all the way to the front. Everybody's pushing me and my mom up to the front of the line. And there was another mother and daughter who was about to get sat. And the mother and daughter stopped. And they're like, no, take them. And I was like, we can wait. I promise you, we can wait. It's fine. We have time. And she's like, no. She's like, take our seat. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Like, again, like super appreciative of that. I was not expecting that at all. And we sit down and the first thing I order immediately is a Dr. Pepper and chocolate molten cake. And then I ordered my fajitas for second. So I had to have dessert first. And I'm sitting there and I'm eating my mom's just watching me eat this entire cake by myself. And it's like dead silence. And I just look up at her and I'm like, one day I'm going to live in Texas. And she's like, okay, Megan. And I was like, no, really, one day I'm going to live in Texas. And she's like, okay, one day at a time, let's just finish. She just kind of gassed it off. Like she didn't believe me, but I don't know why, but it was in that moment. I was like, I'm going to live here one day. And then, yeah, I think because I always kept that in the back of my mind is like how much I love this state. It's so beautiful. The people are so nice. Like that whole Southern charm thing is a thing. So we fly in from Houston that same day into San Francisco. And I mean, people are elbowing me to get me out of the way. It was just a mess. And I was just like, I miss Texas. Like everybody was so nice. So yeah, that's why Texas. I always knew I was going to come back here. And I didn't know why. Like I said, I was just sitting there eating my chocolate cake and I'm just like, I'm going to live here one day. So
well, you seem very in your element too. Like I watch you on social media and I'm like, you are just so good at what you do. I can just tell by watching you and you really seem like you're in your element. And I've got to paint the picture for everyone because they can't see you. They can only hear you. You're this gorgeous, petite, little thing. And, just thinking about going through all of that and that rope story. Oh my gosh. I still have chills from that. Like, and then the police force and like all of these different things that you've done, it just listening to that, it makes me feel like, wow, you really can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it. Like, you're a tough cookie, and it kind of gives me confidence. Like, maybe I could do more than I think I could, you know?
But I want to like I remind my daughter all the time. I'm like, your reality is what you make it. You want to do something, just do it. And I know you guys follow me on social media, so you can see, like, if my daughter wants to try something, like I fly or we go ziplining, she just tells me, Mom, I want to try this. Okay. I would much rather buy her an experience than buy her a toy. That's like kind of our rule. So she knows that she can ask for anything. Why not? You can make your life whatever the hell you want it to be. And again, another thing that I want women, or even if men read it too, to get out of this is like, it's never too late. If I can do it, they can do it.
And one thing that I really hear the entire time that you're sharing your story is just that you follow your heart. You know, you don't really have an explanation for why you wanted to move to Texas. It was just a gut feeling, and it clicked, and you're like, you put your mind to it, you know, and most people are the opposite, where they put their mind to something, but they don't really feel it. It's because, you know, they overthink it, or they're told to do it, or they feel it's the right thing. But you, that whole time, you know, joining the military and then joining the police force, and every single thing was just your intuition saying, I want to do this. And then you put your mind to it, and you're like, anything is possible. And I'm right there with you, Megan. Like, I hit reset a couple times in my life too. And that's, you know, what I talk to women about too, because I think we get in our head that it's impossible. We go through this career and we go through schooling and we get this degree, and that's where we're supposed to be, you know, forever, because that's what makes the most sense in our society. Yeah. When in fact, you know, why do we torture ourselves and be miserable? Like you said, you were miserable. Why do we stay in that? You know, and I think that what you are offering in your book is going to help a lot of those women wake up to, I don't want to waste my life being miserable, missing out on all these opportunities. And look at how happy you are now. I mean, you're still going through, you know, the healing process and everything, but yeah, following you on social media. I literally sent you a message the other day because you're always showing your houses, and she is the cutest fashion. Gosh, if you could wreck me, I tell you what, it's so adorable. But you're just standing in those houses, and it's flawless, and it looks as if you were meant to live there. So I left you a comment, and I was just like, I totally see this for you. I see you and your daughter in one of these beautiful houses that you are showing, and knowing you and hearing your story, if you want that, you're going to have it.
I know. And that's what I keep telling myself every time I'm in these, if I have to list one of these like $1 million beautiful homes, the one thing that I'm big on is while I'm there. And if I'm just waiting for people to come to my open houses or something, like I'm just sitting there and I'm acting as if it's my house. I'm visualizing myself in it. I am, you know what I mean? Like, I'm dressed the part. That's something that I learned in the mastermind class is, you know, dress for the life you want. So I always make sure that I love clothes anyway. So I always try to like look my best as much as I can. But when I'm in that house, like I feel like it's mine. I feel like that millionaire that lives in this house that, you know, is like sipping. And I always serve wine and champagne at my open house. So I'll always have a little bit too. And so I'm just sitting there like with a glass of wine, and I'm like acting as if this is already my house. And oh my gosh, it just motivates me more to keep going. But I like that you brought up the intuition thing, because I think that plays a big role in my life, is following your intuition and then also acting quick. If you sit on this too long, like the fact that I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to do this years ago, but I sat on it too long, the what ifs start popping up and you start second guessing. And once you have that fear, once you're so scared to try to do something, I feel like, you know, like it's hard to get that motivation back. And that's what happened to me is I lost the motivation because I was scared. And I feel like a lot of women, if you just have that gut intuition, start it. Just do it before you talk yourself out of it. Because once you talk yourself out of it, it's hard to talk yourself back into it. You end up having to take a master class just to kind of motivate you to get back into it. And so, just go for it. Follow that intuition feeling. Your intuition's not wrong. You will succeed. You just have to find the motivation to push through to, you know, just to see the other side. I don't believe that you're going to fail if you follow your intuition. And even if you have to get redirected, if something didn't work and you need to be redirected, I mean, again, like what's the worst that can happen? We're not going to die. We're going to be fine. We're going to be okay. Even if I wasn't successful in real estate, I could always go back to law enforcement. I don't want to, but I could. And I was like, that's the worst thing that could happen. I'm not going to die. Might as well just throw myself into it and try it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize they're already living their worst case scenario. It's like, if you go and try something else, you can always go back to another job you hate. I mean, that would be pretty easy. But yeah, following your intuition, and also another thing that was, I think, caught all of us by surprise in the mastermind was just all of the emotions and sort of like the deep work that takes place, but is so healing, because it's like we cried so much throughout that mastermind, and there were so many layers and things that came out. But then by doing that, it made space, and it was like these new ideas could flow in. And I feel like everyone that went through it experienced that and kind of found their calling. And so I know, like, on one of the calls that we had, that was like, oh my gosh, we all bonded, but we were all like crying. And it was like, I think that was the call where you're like, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
And we were like, do it. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I know you've been doing that. And again, it's like a whole other process with what comes up when you're sharing your life experience. So do you want to kind of talk about that side of it?
Yeah. Kind of like what we were talking about before, is things that I wish I would have known before I started this. So before I started writing this book, things that I wish I would have known that I will definitely be telling other women or even other men who want to get into writing, become an author, whether you're self-publishing or whatever. Something that I wish I would have been told to kind of better prepare myself is, when you are writing a book on self-development or trauma, anything that pertains to your life, you need to have friends and a support system on standby. This book has been the biggest challenge ever. It is hard. First off, the discipline to write it is hard, but also you don't realize that while you're writing, you are unpacking. Like, you have that gigantic suitcase of trauma, and you are slowly unpacking it by writing everything down. Things that I had not thought about in years are all starting to come back, like flooding back. Things that I forgot about, that I have suppressed. All of a sudden I'm writing and I stop and I'm sobbing. And it'll be on a word that hits me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I have that realization, like, again, like the talking about that rope. I bring it up in other chapters too, is like, when you're faced with that challenge. And every single time I talk about that rope, I get super emotional, because that was life-changing for me. And, or talking about a friend who had passed in the military or something, and that you don't even remember, that you suppressed the details. You don't really remember, that person obviously has passed away, but you kind of suppressed how they passed away. So you're writing about it, and I'm reliving it, and all of us. And so in order to kind of like collect myself, I'll skip chapters. I'll go from chapter 2 and I'll remember something about chapter 12 or something. And then I'll go to chapter 12. And then as I'm writing chapter 12, I'll skip back to another chapter, because as you're writing, your brain is playing catch up. And I feel like the memories are flooding in. You're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. I forgot about that. So this book is all over the map, probably like me, because I have ADHD. So I'm just jumping in between chapters back and forth, remembering everything, trying to keep it together, and calling my friends. I have 2 best friends here in Texas, and I can call them for anything. And I've called them crying. And sometimes I want to talk about the book. Sometimes I don't want. Sometimes I just want them to like bring something else up so I can get my mind off of it. And then I also need to take breaks, because it's like a therapy session. Writing this book is like therapy. So I do need to, for me, I can't write every single day. I did the whole writing 2 days straight in a row, and I ended up being super depressed for 2. I wasn't happy. I felt like, felt really sad. Because again, like, you're reliving all this, and making those therapy appointments and stuff like that. My therapist is like, you need to take breaks. You need to slow down, because again, things I wish I would have known before starting this, because I would have better prepared myself. So yeah,
overall it's healing. Like, even though you're reliving that, and it's like that trauma is coming to the surface, do you feel a sense of like relief, or like feel lighter that you're putting it on paper, you're putting it out there, you're sort of like releasing it in a way?
Not yet. I have a feeling because it's all like, I just started writing, I want to say what, like a month and a half ago. So I feel like it's all still here. It's all at surface level. I'm bringing it all up, but I have a feeling, and I keep telling myself, and I've told my friends this too, like once it's out, once it goes through all 12 edits and everything, and it's, once it's out, I think I'm going to be able to breathe again. Right now, I feel like because I'm like in it, I'm pushing through as hard as I can. I'm keeping my head down. I even have a stupid little note on my computer that says, put your hair up in a bun, get some coffee and start writing, because I'm pushing through this freaking book to write it. It is so hard. And everything is at surface level right now. So anything right now, since I started writing this book, anything will make me cry. And I feel like, again, just keep your head down, push through, write the book, release it, and then I can take a breath. So I'm hoping this book doesn't take a year to write, because I don't want to be like on edge for a year. So I'm just like, motivated, just get it out into the world. And then I'll take a breath. And then I feel like, okay, I feel good. So yeah, but just being constantly reminded of everything, just reliving it. Ugh, it's been hell.
Can I ask you what your why is behind? I mean, I know we talked about, the reason why you wanted to get started, but does that motivate you, your why behind the purpose of this book?
Absolutely. So my why behind it is because I want to write this for every little girl who grew up with trauma, who never felt like she had a voice. I want to give him or her something to relate to and to motivate them to, they can move in any direction that they want to in life. And there has been books that have changed my life, and in ways that if I ever ran into that author, I would love to run up and just hug that. And I did get to meet one author here in Texas, and I hugged her. We both cried together. I told her how her book changed my life. I'm living for that day. I'm living for the day where a random girl walks up to me crying, telling me her story, like that author did for me, where we got to sit and just talk for a minute. And we're both crying because she made it to her light at the end of the tunnel, and the book helped her. That's my why. I want, like I said, I want to be known for the girl that like has changed somebody's life. I don't care if 5 people read this book or 20, 30. I just want it to be out there because I know somebody needs it. And I love the fact that like self-publishing is a thing, because everybody has a story to tell, and somebody out there needs to hear it in a way that only you can tell it. I'm sorry to get emotional, because that's my why. It's, again, like somebody out there needs to hear it told by me, specifically me. So.
Oh my gosh. I have chills. I can't wait to read this. I know I'm going to be crying the whole time, but it's going to change lives. And I hope it's a book that, will become so massive, which I really think it will, that every little girl like knows about it and can read that and know that she can climb her rope in whatever way that is for her.
Whatever that rope is, like I said, like whatever is that pivotal moment, you'll never forget it. I feel like a lot of people won't ever forget that moment where they knew, like, I can't believe you just freaking did that. And I, when I'm faced with something that's very freaking scary, very just overwhelming, I think about like, okay, well, I used to have 6 drill instructors around me screaming at me to get up this damn rope, and I couldn't do it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally it just happened. So I go off of that moment. Everybody has that moment where they can get back, whether it was abusive relationship where they got out, whether it was an addiction and they were able to put themselves in treatment or something. Everybody has that moment where it's like, God, that was freaking hard. But if I can do that, I can do anything. And you just bring yourself back to that moment. And that's what will motivate you to just keep going. So.
Oh my gosh. I think so many people are going to be listening to this podcast and listening to that story and feeling like, okay, I can go do the thing now that I've been afraid of doing. Yeah, me included. I'm like so motivated right now listening to this. Well, can you let everyone know where to find you so that they can share with you when they go and do the thing after listening to this podcast, and then they can follow your book journey and everything?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I appreciate that. So it's TX for Texas. So TX underscore real estate doll. So TX underscore real estate doll. And Magan is spelled Magan. It's not Magan, it's Megan. So I've been called Magan my entire life. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I would love for anybody, just if they ever needed that motivation. I'm a big cheerleader, just like the girls that we were in that mastermind class with. We couldn't have had a better group. I am a huge cheerleader. If anybody ever DM'd me, to this day, I still get random, especially the single moms. For some reason, I get a lot of single moms asking me questions. I will write everybody back. I will sit there. I will give advice. I've given moms my phone number just if they needed that talk. It's just, yeah, if anybody ever needs that motivation, I hope people would DM me. So, because I need it too. I love helping other people because there's stuff that I learned from other moms and stuff. So, yeah.
We need that support. We need that network. And women I think we're getting better, but growing up, women were terrible. And we need to start getting back into supporting one another and being there because it's hard. But you are changing other lives. And just by sitting here with you and knowing your story in the mastermind, your life is changing too. And this book is going to be something incredible. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
And we look so much forward to the journey. And of course, when it's finally done, and we're going to check back in. So we want to invite you back after the book is out and kind of see how you're feeling and what's coming up for you at that moment.
Absolutely. Plus, I like following your guys' journey. I'm not going anywhere. I feel like you guys are stuck with me now since the masterclass. So yeah, we're all stuck together.
Oh yeah. We're going to stay in touch forever. Everyone that joins is like, yeah, you're my best friend now. So
I know we have like a bunch of new besties and new sisters. And yeah, I love that.
I know. It's like the best girl gang ever. I love it.
It really is.
I know. Again, thank you so much for coming on. This was so amazing. And yeah, we will definitely do a follow-up episode with you and we'll be watching your journey.
I appreciate it, guys. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.